Dr. Samir Kamath, Secretary to the Government of India, Department of Defence R&D, General Anjinder Singh, Deputy Chief of the Integrated Defence Staff, General Man, the ever dynamic Army Design Bureau, General Sunil Srivastav, Director St. Joe's, who's been steering many a conference on contemporary topics, General Arora, veterans, officers in uniform, ladies and gentlemen, namaskar. I would like to take the permission of Secretary R&D to borrow a shloka from the Vedas, which is the IP of, I would say, Dr. Ranjana in DSTA. And that seems to be so apt today for me. It reads like this. Srujana artham, sramantyethe, yantrani vividanicha. Any number of yantrams. Yantrani vividanicha. Vijnana pragatim praptva. If you want to progress in Vijnana, Vijnana pragatim praptva, Rashtram sarva samedate. The entire nation will prosper. Ladies and gentlemen, Srujana is new creativity. Sramantyete is extreme toil. Sram, you have to work hard for that. And just to put that in English, it says for a nation's ambitions to be Atmanirbhar in defense production, achieving complete supremacy in strategic raw materials is an essential prerequisite. The earlier we realize, the earlier we put in this effort, the better it is for all of us. So I've got 10 minutes, I've got 10 points. I've just picked up exactly 10 points. I just thought I should highlight them. General Srivastava spoke about the geopolitical environment, and I want to touch a little bit about that. Ukraine is an important global producer for a couple of primary raw materials: titanium, kaolin, manganese, iron, uranium, zircon. Semiconductor industry will be plagued by neon and palladium. Russia and Ukraine lead the global production of metals such as nickel, copper, iron, rare earths. They are involved largely in exports of neon, palladium, platinum, etc. Russia is a leading player in titanium industry. Its company Avisma, which is the main supplier, 13% of the world share is with them. It produces titanium products using the crawl process and silicon, etc. Then there is a company from the Sumitomo Group, one of the largest Japanese, Keiretsu. Keiretsu is a set of companies with interlocking business relationships and shareholdings that have dominated the Japanese economy since the second half of the 20th century. In a legal sense, it's type of an informal business group, and I'm talking about Osaka Titanium Technologies. This example is so relevant today. All of us think that we can do things by ourselves. I think in certain strategic areas, collaboration is the key. The company was founded in 1937 as a metal industry manufacturing steel, and then they went on to titanium in 1952. And 2002, Cobalt Steel took up a stake in this, and in 2002, it was launched as a titanium corporation. Western aerospace companies are heavily reliant on Russian titanium. A little bit of research shows that this is drying up for them, and they are trying to put in a lot of efforts as to how they should now do it themselves. Boeing sources, for example, 1/3 of its titanium requirements from Russia. Airbus about 50%. Embraer entire supply. Similarly, the engine suppliers like Safran, Rolls-Royce source 50%, 20% of their titanium from Russia. VSMPO and Boeing set up a strategic partnership in 2015 for titanium alloys and technologies. Sometime around 2005, 2006, when I was the director of the capital acquisitions in MOD and also the director of the offsets, one of the offset programs was signed with the Russians as part of the MiG-29 deal, and therefore KMML had come up. But today we are still struggling, also with the capacity of 500 tons, they are still around 300 tons. And the idea is always to go in the mega manner. You should talk about 10,000 tons. At that time we said, there is no requirement in India, so what? But there's a requirement in the world. I think we need to look up as to how we can be global suppliers, and only then scales will come, only then technologies will come, only then the interest will come, only then the entire ecosystem will develop alongside that. Status of major imports in India, lithium, cobalt, nickel, vanadium, niobium, germanium, they are all coming from countries like China, Chile, Russia, Australia, South Africa, and so many of them we have mapped actually all of them from the material to the country from where it's coming. And I think this is very important for us to understand. The fourth point is the global aerospace and defense materials market was at 36.42 billion in 2021, and it's expected to grow to about 67.42 by 2030. If you have noticed, during the COVID, some of the strategic materials, it started with a 30% increase in the cost and went up to 70% by the end of COVID, and then came the war in Ukraine. And now there is another front that's opened up. And Eastern Europe is already hands down. And at this stage, it is not even available for you. You may want to make all your missiles, you may want to make all your things, but where is the raw material? It may not be available even at the highest cost that is there. Some global developments. China imposed export restrictions on gallium and germanium in response to Washington sanctions. China imposed restrictions in October 23, recently as last month, on graphite. This highlighted the Western dependence on China for critical raw materials. These are the gallium, germanium, graphite, and even though they are not rare earths, they are used in energy transition, solar panels, and China was clearly aiming to be a dominant leader in this sector. They had a long-term strategy, and they established the strategy in the Made in China 2025 plan and targeted sectors, including defense, science, and technology. Ecosystem development will go alongside with less stringent environmental standards. So this is what China did. The ADG of Army Design Bureau talked about it. Let me give you a small example. Turkey, for example, does not have certifications. Do we know that? They don't have certifications. They go by requirements. And they are one of the largest exporters today. The TB2s, it doesn't have a certification agency in Turkey which certifies it. The manufacturer does it himself. And that's where the responsibility comes on the manufacturer, on the industry. And I think, if I'm not too wrong, certification is definitely a time-consuming factor and sometimes, frustrating. May not be for the right reasons all the time. Processing dominance. China is a leading refiner of strategic minerals globally. Control of upstream materials, anticipating the demand increase, Belt Road Initiative role, lithium and cobalt focus, African and Australian investments. China is diversifying its supply sources by investing in lithium mines in Africa and Australia. Cobalt production and refining. The DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, a major cobalt producer, has seen significant investment from China. Technological and military applications, the CRM strategy, the critical material strategy itself had implications in technology and defense, affecting global supply chains and national security. The Western responses, they are still adopting strategy. They are still trying to adapt to the situation. And, there is an Inflation Reduction Act and European Critical Raw Materials Act. So that's what is happening in the world. And today, global OEMs are facing a great crunch. One of the major programs for the Navy, which is the heavyweight torpedoes, actually fell off because of the rise in raw materials. And why does that happen? You know, there is an OEM who submits a bid, and then we take our own time to process. He extends the bid, again we process. By the time the materials will up, and when you're ready to sign the contract, the OEM is not ready because he cannot sustain the contract at that rate. So there is an element of decision making in all this. So what have been the developments in India? A number of developments. I mean, the ADG spoke, Dr. Kamath spoke to you about it. There have been some excellent developments that are here. Talked about the protective spray, the Nano graphene. We have placed certain materials in the positive lists of indigenization. It's very relevant for the industry. The alloy DMR 249A grade steel, 291 marine grade aluminum plates and things like that, high nitrogen steel, it's all there. So I think we need to do more. One of the things that always comes to my mind is when a raw material is available in India, it should be banned for import. Unfortunately, that's not happening. And after all, OEM, if I take an example of an HAL or a BEL or any OEM, he ultimately wants to reduce his cost. And for the cost reduction, he might have to go outside because it may not be economical for him to buy from India. And here is where I think the services, the MOD have to come with an iron hand and say it's a B&E, we'll bear the cost. But you procure it from India as long as it meets the technical requirements. In such cases, it's very important for the government to step in and use this provision which is there in the DAP, in the DPPs. All these years it has been there. Nothing new. Navy has used it extensively in the Fincantieri deal, and I had seen it firsthand in 2006. And I've not seen that happening after that. India made groundbreaking discovery in lithium deposits in J&K. Sediment samples from the Gulf of Cobalt near Alang in Gujarat have revealed the presence of vanadium. Researchers in IIT Mandi have created stealth material. We are completely dependent on imports for crucial minerals yet. The Indian government also introduced legislation following its first policy on critical minerals in June to allow the private players to explore and mine these minerals. And I think this is a fantastic step. And here is where, again, excessive dependence on government companies will not be conducive. We should have an inclusive industry. We should talk about the entire private industry to come up and make these investments because they can make it quickly, they can make it fast, they can get the technology, they can actually produce results. There's a high usage of copper, nickel in battery manufacturing. I'm not going into those details because that's already there. What's important is IIT Rupert. This is a very recent development. IIT Rupert, they discovered a rare metal in Sutlej as a part of, this lady was doing her own research, and while doing a research, and then she discovered titanium tantalum in Sutlej, and this has got a terrific application in semiconductors, and it's highly corrosion resistant. We have identified 30 minerals. Different countries have different standards. US has identified 50, Japan 31, UK 18, EU 34, Canada 31, and so goes the list. Last 2 points. I want to touch on the DAP. Let us do what we can. One is what the researchers will do. One is what the industry can do. One is what is already available to you. Are we doing it? So I want to quote the DAP here. The DAP has included strategic materials as a critical technology. The DPEPP, the Defence Production and Export Promotion Policy, in 2020 had included strategic materials as a critical technology. And what did the DAP do? DAP has got a full section on military materials. And I want to quote this just to revise. It says, indigenous availability of high-end military materials and special alloys is an important facet in self-reliance in defense sector. And they gave a very beautiful description forward, talking about how you should do for ongoing projects, how you should do for development future needs. And they say, other than buy global, he says materials are known to be available. We should examine that at RFI stage, ascertain the feasibility of using and rewarding the use of indigenous materials. Ladies and gentlemen, please note this beautiful word that was inserted in the DAP. Somebody with a vision has put it in, rewarding. And that reward has to come in terms of a BNE, BFE, GHE, whatever you want to call it. The government has to put the foot down and say, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to reward this. And in the buy and make Indian category, if the material is not available, the DAP says TOT for manufacture of materials may be sought. How many buy and make programs are there? How many times we have sought? I leave it to you. We know this. It talks about development of future needs. As an ongoing process to achieve phased development, manufacture of materials within the country for use in future projects, platform manufacturers, R&D establishments and SHQ are to carry out an environment scan and identify various materials that can be developed in country. Not limited to phased development, inclusion of TOT, seeking, prioritizing, promoting TOTs and taking up make or TDF projects for development of materials. And here is where I want to tell you, there are more than about 100 programs, I think it's 102, in Make 2. There are more than about 40 programs, I think if I'm not wrong, it's 41 for Make 1. I do not know in how many of them we have actually tried to indigenize the materials, put it in the... There is a fantastic development that has happened again last week, in this week itself. Dr. Nagarajan from DLJ, I've been interacting with him for a long time now, and he's come up with this this material, the radar absorbing material, and this is I would say a clear breakthrough, because at some point in time we were discussing with the French on the infrared signatures. And that was the time that we picked up, and even at that time DLJ was doing their own research, and today we have achieved a breakthrough. So what do you do in the way forward? One is, I want to talk about the certification agencies, CEMILAC. Should CEMILAC act as a Thanedar, or should CEMILAC act as an enabler? This is the question. I think all of us know the answers. I'm not going to answer this. So I think we need to progress on that. There is tremendous amount of knowledge available in DMRL, tremendous with Midani. Can this be shared with the private industry for the benefit of the nation, or I'll leave the or there. I don't want that to happen. We talked about antimony, beryllium, bismuth, cobalt, copper, all these things are there. And there is a report from the Ministry of Minerals which has given several recommendations, including Center of Excellence and things like that. When the ADG was talking about, the requirements, what a soldier wants, something came to it just occurred to me. I don't know. Well, he said, at the cost of sounding cynical, I would say at the cost of sounding foolish, I want to say, is there a way in technical textiles we can have some sort of a magnetic field that's created to reduce the kinetic velocity of the bullet and actually have no impact when it strikes the body? Is it possible? I don't know. Let the army throw the challenge. I'm sure the industry will come up with a solution. You can have a magnetic field, an area magnetic weapon, and you can have a personal magnetic weapon. And I think, I don't know. It just occurred to me. So that's where we are, and there have been a number of challenges that have been talked about. And I think certification is a very big challenge, and I think we need to address that. The major challenge which I think, which we are not doing is, it is available in the country and we are importing it. That is a sin to my mind. It's a sin. Anything less than that word, I'm not able to pick it up. And I think that is where we need to put in more effort. And there have been a lot of data that we have collected. We have made this report. I should really thank that youngster over there, Balpreet Singh, who's created this report. And I want to bring it to this August audience that we, the team E&Y, is working with the Ministry of Defence in creating a PLI scheme for strategic materials. We are, it's cleared the Defence Secretary. It is with the Ministry of Finance. And we are hoping that before the Code of Conduct, we would be able to announce this scheme. And this scheme is going to have a budget of something like 9,000 odd crores. That's what we have asked from the government. And I have a funny feeling that the government will concede to this request of the Ministry of Defence. And I think this is one thing, if it goes through, we will have paved a way towards future excellence. Jai Hind. Thank you very much.